Okay, I've made it all the way around. And I secured down my last 3 beads here. Now, it was kind of a tight fit here, so I had to dig through my beads and find 3 shorter beads that would fit in there. And the shorter beads kept breaking because I realized that the shorter beads were already broken. You could see the little cracks there. Anyway, I found 3 that worked, and I managed to get them secured down. So now I secured down, came back up. I am going to go through my next 2. I have a little bit of movement there. So I'm going to go through my next 2 here, just to really secure that down. Now, if you want to make sure everything is sewn down really, really tight, and I've done this on some of my other beading projects, you can go all the way around your project again and just sew it down. So do the same method we did before, just go around a second time through all of these beads. Now, I'm not going to do that here. I might go back and do it later because I'm thinking I might go a little further up and do a second row with these small black beads just above this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'm just going to make one level right now. So I went through the 2 and I taped down this thread because it kept getting in my way. I am going to go ahead and come back up here and start a second row. I can get just as close as I can through. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, so come up right where you want to start your second row. The other thing I wanted to mention, I did have a bit of tangling problem. This thread tangles pretty easily, as I've mentioned before. I will go ahead and add 3. So when you're going through your tubes and you're connecting your next 3 or 2 or whatever number you're working on, try to keep your needle up above the thread that's already in there. Because if you start going through the same thread, you have to go through the same hole, but if you start going through the same threads, it can tangle. So see how I came with my needle right up next to that, and I'm just going to create the same pattern. Now, a lot of these 2 beads, they're similar in size, but they can be off-sized a little bit. Even with the other beads, I found that happens. And you are making a little bit wider circle, so it is going to take a few more beads. So try to line it up. I'm going slow with my thread because I have had a few tangles. And see, that is going to be a little bit longer. Then I'm going to come back through 2. I'm going to go backwards 2 and then go through the 2. But see, when you're going through to just create that second stitch through, I try to pull the thread up towards the top, and so hopefully it doesn't get tangled with the thread on the bottom. And for me, going slow is key, otherwise you get knots. Okay, so I added 3, now I'm going to add 2. I don't know, that's just the pattern I established. Again, keep up your pattern. And we're going to go through and do just the same thing we did on the first row. So again, if you want to get fancy, you could do different size beads. I just find using the same size beads makes it a little easier. You're going to end up with. So I'm adding 2. I'm going to snug it up there. I keep turning around every which way. And I find I get less tangles in the thread. Now see, that's already, you could tell it's going to be, the beads aren't going to match up exactly because you're getting you're covering a larger space. Go slow, go slow. There you go. And then I'm going to go back through these 2 and I'm going to add 3. So it's the same process. You're just moving your, I don't want to pick up the thread there because it tangles. So come back through those 2 that I just added. I'll go back through it. So you can go 4, add 2. It would go faster. This is just the process that works best for me. Moving it slower. Now, I think that I've gotten oil from my fingers on the thread, so it is moving easier for me. The wax is kind of warmed up and melted on there, and it just is moving smoother. So I'll show you I'm adding these 3. Just want to show you how, don't panic, because it's not going to add, it's not going to be added exactly. The lines are going to be off a little bit because it's a bigger ground that you're trying to cover. So it's going to change up a bit. I just try to snug them in as best you can. And if a little background's showing, it's not that big of a deal because you've got that dark purple. And you've got the dark purple thread or dark black thread or whatever color you're using, it's not going to show up. So that's what it's looking like. I'll go ahead and go back through 2 of these, but here's your second row, what it's starting to look like. I love those colors. I'm going to keep going until I get back over to here, and I'm going to show you once again how we work that upwards. Okay, and these will settle down. I think it's looking really pretty. I think I'm going to take a break. My hands are hurting from working with these tiny beads. That's why I've stopped working on them so much. But I'll take a break and then get back to it and make a second row. And I think I will complete 3 rows before we start adding pine needles. Thanks for watching. Okay, I made it all the way around the second row. So I'm looking at how much room I have left on here. And I think that I think 2 rows is enough, but I'm going to go ahead and add 3. And so I'll just show you again how we transition over to our next row. So once you've secured your last row down, come from back to front again. And since we're going around corners, I think I'm just going to go add 2, go through 2, add 2, go through 2, just to make sure it's not floppy down in there. And the 3rd row will be the last row, and then I'll show you how we go ahead and tie off on the back, and then we'll start coiling our pine needle basket. So let me go ahead and add 2 here. I started putting them just down. It was easier to pick them up. You can pick them up this way or load them up as you go. So the beads I'm talking about. So here we go. I'm going to get that nice and snug in there. Again, the space is getting a little bit bigger as we go. So I think that's good. Just want to try to measure them out. And you can always pull your thread back through if you think it's not. So that looks pretty good. Okay, and then I will go back through the 2 just to make sure they're very secured. Try to get right close to there. Seems pretty close. Okay. I love the colors on these beads. I wish I could find some metallic thread these same colors. Maybe I'll look online, see what I can find. But I have every color imaginable. Okay, so there we go. Then I'm going to add 2. I added 2, secure 2. I'm going to keep it in the 2 realm just because it's gotten bigger, and I think that will help it secure down a little easier and a little closer together. If you do 3, it might move out away from the stone. Okay, that looks close enough for me. But you can see how the pattern's starting to change a bit. It doesn't, the beads don't exactly line up because you've got a bigger space to cover. But there you go. I'll work on the 3rd row and then I'll show you how to tie off. So I'm going back up here to get as close as I can. And secure those beads down going through a 2nd time. Here we go. And I'll continue to add 2, tie 2 down, add 2, tie 2 down. So the thread does seem to be going through a little bit easier, and I think it's because it's oily now for my hands, but I'm loving these different colored blackish purple blue stones with the, or beads with the labradorite. That's looking really cool. So I'll have to figure out what color threads I'm going to use and whether I'm going to go back and add another layer. I don't think so. I just love the way this looks. So you could add another layer of beads here, and it's really going to hide the side of that. But I don't think it's going to look much different than it does now. So it's probably not worth the effort. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back shortly. That's what it's looking like. Okay, I've made it all the way around on the 3rd row. There it is. So I think I'm ready just to tie off. I love how these colors look. I wish I had purchased some thread that goes with it, but I don't know. I'll use what I have. So all you need to do now is see how the back looks. It's not horrible, but all you need to do now is tie a few knots and tie this off. And you know, I had more than enough thread. Well, I barely had enough thread, let's be honest. This is the original amount that I started with, the 2 arms length folded in half. So that was awesome. When you make baskets, I'm so used to having to make so many tie-offs. So anyway, this is just how I'm going to do it, is create a few knots here, go right back under, and then I'll just clip it off. This was the original place we started, so we ended up very close to it. And you could tie these 2 together. I might do that. And if you really wanted to secure it, if you were concerned, you could go back through and create the same pattern with all of these beads and double stitch them on. I'm not going to do that. I don't think there will be any problem. The beads will settle right down and nestle up next to it, and it'll be just gorgeous. So this would create a beautiful pendant too, if that's what I wanted to do, but we're going to make a basket. And I see I'm off center a little bit with where I glued it on. I've got more space here than here, but I'm going to even it up and just cut around it and then poke my little holes in there, and I'll show you that in the next step.